Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. And I'm here. I'm back again. And this week, I'm here to kick off the first of my new monthly anime favorite segment right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly. That's right. I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm late on it. I've been promising this new segment for the longest time, but I figured, hell, why not? Why not this week? You know, I'm coming back from the 2-week hiatus, so what better way to kick it off than to introduce the new monthly segment, Anime Favorites. Now, so where the hell did this video come from? Larry, what's been going on with you? Okay. Just to recap, just to, fill you guys in, keep you in the loop, because I know I have a lot of people who just joined my channel. So pretty much what happened was, a couple of months ago, I started looking for, new content to feature on the channel, and this was about a month or so before I stopped the weekly anime and manga reviews. See, the thing was, I've been waiting to do this segment for a while now, but this was back when my channel was still fairly small, and I wasn't sure exactly what type of reception this type of video would get, and I didn't really have the time to experiment with it. But all that changed since okay. Well, all that changed since since the partnership, since the channel is bigger and more prosperous than it's ever been before. I feel freer to experiment with things. But now there's almost a necessity for this segment because two things. Number one, I have greatly decreased on the anime and manga content videos on my channel. Number one. And number two, if you refer back to my problems with today's anime and manga, most of my favorite anime and manga, there are classic titles that no one's talking about. No one's talking about these titles. Now, granted, yes, to kick off this segment, I am going to be talking about, like my top 5 favorites, and those are big name titles, and even though they're classics, everyone knows about them and everyone's been talking about them before, that type of shit. I do understand, but eventually, I got a list, and this motherfucking list is pretty damn long. Some of the animes on this list, motherfuckers ain't talking about no more, and by the time I get around to them, they damn sure ain't gonna be talking about them. So I'm gonna talk about them, and hopefully I can get a chain going with these things, man. Hopefully, I can get some video responses on this, where people who are fans of the series too, you guys go ahead and pitch in. So anyway, wow, I've already gone into 3 minutes. So let's get on with the vid. So this is how I'm going to be doing my anime favorites vid, just so you guys know. What I'm going to be doing is, first, I'm going to do a brief summary of the series in case I have viewers who haven't seen them yet. And don't say that, no, Larry, people have seen these. Because way back when, I think it was back in November when we did the anime you should be watching video, there were people who had never seen fucking Dragon Ball. People who had never even heard of, like, Rurouni Kenshin. So, I'm not taking for granted anything, okay? Because there are people who haven't seen these series. I don't know why, but they just haven't, okay? So, yeah. So, what I'm going to do is, brief summary. I'm going to discuss my favorite characters, heroes and villains. Least favorite characters, heroes and villains. Favorite story arc, least favorite story arc. And then explain why it's my favorite. And what better way to jumpstart this motherfucker than my all-time favorite anime and manga of all time. All-time favorite. The greatest of all time. They ain't none better. That is none other than Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball series, a.k.a. Dragon Ball Z, a.k.a. Dragon Ball Kai, the entire Dragon Ball franchise. Yes, I'll even chuck GT in here. Oh, fucking GT. But yes, Akira Toriyama's brainchild, the Dragon Ball franchise, my all-time favorite, and like I said, in my opinion, it's the greatest of all time. Now, just before I get into the brief well, no, I'll save. What I'll do is I'll save my history with the series for why it's my favorite. But right now, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna jump into a brief summary. Okay, so if I didn't even intend to do a video about Dragon Ball, but I guess I might as well. Okay, pretty much a brief summary of what the Dragon Ball series, the Dragon Ball franchise, pretty much what it is. It's a compilation, it's a collection. It tells the tales, the adventures of Son Goku, and who's a monkey boy, if you will, and all of his friends and family, and it's pretty much their journeys, their quests, their adventures to gather 7 magical items called Dragon Balls. When gathered together, they will summon Shenron, who is a magical dragon that will grant you any wish you desire. And this can happen once every year, because what happens is after Shenron is summoned and after he grants your wish, the Dragon Balls scatter to the far reaches of the earth and they turn into stones. And within 1 year's time, they will return to their original form, in which case you do it all over again. You go and you regather them, and same deal. That's what Dragon Ball, for the gist of it, that's what it's about. But within the course of that series, what you get is you get introduced to all these great characters, all these skilled martial artists, because Dragon Ball, while it is intended to be an adventurous and a comedy, it also doubles as an action and martial arts manga and anime, because you get introduced to all these multiple martial artists. Goku himself becomes a pupil to this great martial arts teacher, Master Roshi, and within the course of the series, you literally see Goku go from wildling to the greatest martial artist on earth. I shit you not. That's literally what occurs within the time frame of Dragon Ball. Now, going on to Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z is when we get into the Woah Shit factor. Now, every manga series, every anime has a Woah Shit factor. What is the Woah Shit factor, Larry? What the fuck are you talking about? The Woah Shit factor pretty much is what happens when you have an ongoing series, a series of particular length, where the series will ascend. Okay, the series ascends into a new territory, into a new environment. Okay, what are examples of what I'm talking about? Dragon Ball has the perfect fucking example, because Dragon Ball, like I said, it started out as an adventurous, comical / martial arts manga and anime, but by Dragon Ball Z, it becomes an intergalactic, extraterrestrial slugfest. Adventurous, comical, searching for the Dragon Balls, a little martial arts on the side. Different planets, aliens, superpowered, slugfest. You see what I mean? You see the two differences? You see the Woah Shit factor? Okay? And most anime and manga of a particular length, especially the great ones, all have this type of Woah Shit factor. Yu Yu Hakusho has it. Rurouni Kenshin has it, but it's not so much in contrast. Like it's not a great contrast to what the series originally was introduced as. I don't think Inuyasha has it. One Piece has it. To use the more recent series as an example, One Piece has it. Naruto has it. Because Naruto's is real obvious, because when it gets into Shippuden Part 2, that's when the Woah Shit factor occurs. So anyway, getting back to sorry, I got off topic a little bit, but that's because I wanted to, explain the transition into Dragon Ball Z, because by the time you get into Dragon Ball Z, two things we find out that really, set the foundation for the rest of the series. Number one, Goku is an alien. And number two, we are not alone in the universe. Those two facts introduce so many possibilities. And it pretty much opens up the door for the rest of the Dragon Ball Z series. Because what happens in Dragon Ball Z, to be very brief about it, is that Goku finds out about his alien lineage. And within the course of the series, like I said, by the end of Dragon Ball, Goku is the greatest martial artist on Earth. He is the strongest man on Earth. But by the time we get into Dragon Ball Z, we find out that Earth is not the only terrestrial planet. Well, no, let me not say terrestrial, because that's the wrong terminology. But Earth is not the only planet with life. No, actually, no, that's what terrestrial does mean. Okay, well, yeah, Earth is not the only terrestrial planet in the universe. There are hundreds of thousands of planets in the universe, and all of them have races of their own. We pretty much get introduced to a bunch of aliens, mainly the Sand race and the Namekian race. Two in particular, because we find out that Goku is a Sand, and Piccolo, who was the main villain, who was the final villain of Dragon Ball, is a Namekian. And within that, we get introduced to... Now, I will say, one thing that Dragon Ball Z does that Dragon Ball just didn't have is the villains, okay? Dragon Ball had villains, but with the exception of, like, General Blue, Mercenary Tao, and King Piccolo, Dragon Ball didn't really have any, hard-hitting villains. Like I said, those are the only three that I can really consider were, like, badass villains. Dragon Ball Z, however, steps the game up with the villains, because we get Vegeta, which is probably my favorite villain of Dragon Ball Z. We get Frieza, who is one of the best villains in anime and manga, period. Frieza is such a good fucking villain, okay? We get Cell, which a lot of people don't like Cell. I enjoy Cell. Cell wasn't on that bullshit. Cell was straight to the point. I enjoy Cell. And we got Boo, which I didn't really care for Boo. Now, Kid Boo I cared for. Kid Boo was cool. Kid Boo reminded me a lot of Cell. Kid Boo was all about the violence and all about the fights. He didn't give a fuck about the politics and shit like that, Kid Boo. And then I gotta throw him in here because he's not in any of the regular continuity. Cooler, who is my all-time favorite Dragon Ball Z villain. Cooler is my all-time favorite Dragon Ball Z villain, but he's not continuity. He's only in the movies, and it's a shame, because Cooler is so fucking cutthroat, and he is so beast. Frieza, Frieza was, he's a great villain. Cooler steps the game up on Frieza just a bit, just because Cooler talks a lot of shit, but he can back it up. And for the most part, Frieza did too. But Frieza had that fear of, the Super Saiyan. Cooler didn't give a shit. Cooler did what the fuck he wanted. He didn't give a damn if you were a Super Saiyan. And we learned about that in the Return of Cooler film. But yeah, that's pretty much the just... Not, okay, no. Because there's one more thing I need to talk about the brief summary, the brief synopsis of Dragon Ball Z is that one thing that is missing in Dragon Ball Z, one thing that is the original concept and the original premise that I feel over time got lost is this. Dragon Ball, for all intents and purposes, is the story of Goku. Dragon Ball Z is supposed to be the story of Gohan, his son. And because of the direction in which the story took, that got lost. Up until the Cell Saga, that was the original premise and the original concept. Dragon Ball Z was the story of Gohan. Let's face it. Let's talk about this, okay? Let's talk about this, okay? When first saga, Sand Saga for DBZ, Vegeta was the big bad booty daddy. Who defeated Vegeta? It wasn't Goku. Goku lost that fight. Gohan did it. Crushed him. Okay, then you have Namek Saga and the Frieza Saga. Yes, Goku did beat Frieza, but that was setting the foundation for the Cell Saga and the Android Saga. Because what happened in the Cell and Android Saga? Who was the big bad booty daddy in that? Cell. He was the best. He was the biggest villain that they had up until then. And who beat him? Gohan. Because Gohan finally surpassed Goku, took over the reins as Earth's defender, as its protector. You know. And I'm going to get more into this when I get into my favorite arc, because the Cell Saga is my favorite arc of the story. So with that said, let me go ahead, because I already see I'm pushing 15 minutes. Let me go ahead and let me jump into my favorite characters, my least favorite characters. Now my favorite character, hands down, is Goku. Because Goku, in my opinion, he is the end-all, be-all hero. Goku does not ask questions. Goku does not get involved in the politics. Goku doesn't give a shit about, Goku. It isn't 1,000 Shades of Grey to Goku. Okay? Now, yeah, let's face it. In today's world, in this reality, the world is not black and white. It is 1,000 Shades of Grey. But that is the thing about Goku that I love, because even though it's a fictional world, if you were to apply, what Goku does and, his belief system and all that jazz, if you were to apply that to the real world, we're talking about some very idealistic shit, okay? I always put Goku on the pedestal with Superman. I always look at Goku as the Japanese Superman. Because, it's like I said, Goku doesn't give a shit about the politics. This is Goku's stand. You hurt innocent people, you threaten innocent people, I'm going to stop you. You're stronger than me, okay? I'm going to work my ass off so that I can become strong enough to beat you, and I'm going to help these people. People need my help, I'm going to help them. These people are too weak to defend themselves, so I'm going to defend them. I'm going to defend them for them. I'm strong enough to do it. Let me do it. Let me take that mantle. Let me put that weight on my shoulders. That, like I said, it's very idealistic, but in the fucked up world that we live in, we need that type of idealistic reasoning, and we need those type of characters. Say what you want about them. Yes, what I'm saying is, when I say them, I'm talking about like Goku and Superman. Say what you want about them. Oh, they're not very realistic. Okay, true. Oh, they're not down to earth. I can't relate to them. Well, they're aliens. You're not supposed to. Oh, they're too super powered. They're too cliche. It turns me off of them. Yeah, they're supposed to be. Why? Because they are the supermen. For anybody who's ever picked up Nietzsche and his philosophy on the Superman, that's what they are. They are the grand standard. They set themselves at such a high standard that it seems impossible for anyone to ever relate to them or to ever meet their standards. But they have to hold themselves to that standard because they carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. And I absolutely love those characters for that. That's why I fucking love Goku. Fucking love him as a character, I got introduced, funny enough, I got introduced to Dragon Ball when I was real little. I didn't even know what it was. And then I got introduced to DBZ when I was 9. And that's when I drew back the parallels. Like, oh man, I remember watching this series. Because I remember watching the series about the little monkey boy. Oh, this is him grown up. Alright, this is cool. And since the first episode, I just fell in love with the series. And I fell in love with the character. Other favorite characters, Gohan. I love Gohan. Think he's a great character. Vegeta, favorite villain, favorite villain / anti-hero, because Vegeta does turn into an anti-hero later on. Trunks, love Trunks. I love Trunks. Yes, it is easy to say that the Saiyans are my favorite characters. But yeah, Trunks is a diehard favorite of mine. Cooler, like I said, I mentioned him earlier. Cooler is my favorite villain who stayed a villain throughout. I love Cooler. You know what? those are probably those are probably like my top 5 favorite characters. Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Trunks, and Cooler are characters. But I do like, Chi-Chi, Ox King, Master Roshi, Bulma, Oolong Poir, Tien, Piccolo, King Kai. I enjoy all those characters. Least favorite characters. Yamcha. By far, Yamcha is my least favorite character. I'm sorry, but Yamcha was so kick-ass in Dragon Ball that by the time Dragon Ball Z rolled around, he just got the shit end of the stick. He really did. Him and all the human characters got the shit end of the stick. Because the story focused more on the Saiyans and less so much on the human characters. It's like I said, by the time we got into DBZ, we got into alien territory. And the human characters really couldn't hold a candle to these aliens. It's just the cold hard truth. But I mean, and you can go ahead and say it's not really the character's fault. That was Toriyama's fault for writing Yamcha like that in DBZ. But let's face it, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. The facts were right there on the table. Because of the events that took place in DBZ, the human characters were no longer needed. So they kind of just fell by the wayside. But like I said, that is a fault of DBZ. Like I said, it is my favorite. Just because it's my favorite and just because I think it is the greatest of all time, that doesn't mean that I can't see the faults in the story. The reason why I say it's the greatest of all time is because I think that the positives greatly outweigh its negatives. But DBZ does have negatives, and that's being one of them. The whole character development thing. Once DBZ came around, the human characters became useless, because even Piccolo got a greater role in DBZ, but the human characters didn't. So that's just one of the areas where Toriyama fell short. So favorite story arc, I mentioned it earlier. Cell Saga is my favorite story arc for multiple reasons. The Android and Cell Saga, both of them. For number one, it introduced Trunks, who is one of my favorite characters. And Trunks and his whole story, it's great. The whole idea of, this is a young man, the son of Vegeta, who was a villain, went back in time to try and prevent the horrors and the tragedies that occurred in his time from happening in theirs. And keep in mind, Trunks didn't change the future. Okay, Trunks, when he went back in time to that time, the way time travel works in DBZ is that it is different dimensions. It's separate dimensions. Trunks went back in time. He went to, when he went to that world, he did that to save that world. When he went back into the future, he went back into his own world. Just because the events changed, him going back in time, that didn't change the events of his world. When he went back, everybody was still dead. It was just him and his mom. The androids were still there. Cell was still there. So that shows the mark of the type of man, the type of hero that Trunks was. He went back to change, to stop that from happening there. So I commend him for that. Number 2, we did get some kick-ass villains. Like I said, Android 17 and 18, kick-ass villains. Cell was a kick-ass villain. The thing I liked about Cell is that, like I said, Cell was straight to the point. He was all about the action. He didn't give a shit about the politics. But one thing about Cell I did like is Cell shared that Saiyan ego. Keep in mind, Cell is a character who, for those of you who don't know, Cell is a character who has all the cells of all of the Z fighters, including the Saiyan gene. And he had that Saiyan ego about him as far as battle was concerned. And I like that because we hadn't seen that type of mentality since Vegeta. Because remember, with the Frieza fight, Frieza, yeah, he did, max out his power. He went all out. But he went went through all the stages, all the transformations, because he wanted to beat them with the least amount of power as possible. He wasn't all about the competitiveness and the sportsmanship of it. He just wanted to, get rid of the heroes. Cell actually gave a shit about, the competitiveness of the fight. His whole thing was that he wanted to become perfect. He wanted to become complete. And in order to do that, he had to absorb 17 and 18. He needed to become complete so that he could fulfill his purpose. Keep in mind, he is a bioweapon. Okay, he's a biological weapon. And he did that so that, he could become the perfect Cell. Perfection at its finest. That was Cell's thing. Cell had an ego. He had that whole perfectionist thing about him, which I dug. Because Cell wasn't at the point like Frieza. Frieza was an actual intergalactic warlord. So he had that royalty thing about him. Same thing with Vegeta. Vegeta, same thing. He was royalty. But Cell wasn't. Cell just had that whole perfection thing about him. And for the record, Cell's English voice actor really did exude that in his voice acting. Because, I am Cell. I am perfect. I am perfection. That's how Cell talked. And I dug that shit about him. I dug that. Also, let's see. We got Gohan finally stepped into the role. He inherited the role of the protector from his dad. We got to see, Vegeta's, a different side of Vegeta, him and his whole family, that type of thing. And we saw the conflict, the tension between him and Trunks, which was cool. We saw the final resolution between Kami and Piccolo. That happened. Krillin found love. Okay. I'm trying to think what else happened in the Cell saga. Because that's a lot to take in itself. Super Saiyan 2, which was supposed to be the pinnacle of the Super Saiyan transformation. But yeah, and then of course the Cell games. Dude, I'm sorry, but the Cell games has some of the best action in DBZ. Now, will I say that, the Cell games was on par with like the Goku Frieza fight? No. The Goku Frieza fight is probably the best fight in the whole fucking series. The Goku Frieza fight is probably the best fight in anime and manga, period. Okay? I have yet to see a fight that tops that. But the Cell games were still pretty damn good. Like the Goku Cell fight and the Gohan Cell fight, those two fights are definitely in the top 5 best fights in, like, if I had to pick the top 5 best fights in DBZ, it would be Goku Vegeta round 1, Goku and Frieza. This is in order of their appearance, not in order of 1 through 5. Goku and Vegeta from Saiyan Saga. That was the first fight. Goku and Frieza, Goku and Cell, Gohan and Cell, and then the last fight that I say was like the best would probably be Goku and Vegeta round 2 in the tournament saga right before Majin Buu popped up. Majin Vegeta versus Goku. That fight was fucking awesome. That shit is on par with like the Goku Frieza fight. That shit was off the fucking chain. Okay, so shit, I'm almost at 30 minutes. Alright, let's hurry up and get into this. Finish this up. Least favorite story arc would probably, Buu Saga. Buu Saga hands down. And the reason for that is because I felt that the story would have been perfect had it ended with the Cell Saga. The reason for that being this. Cell Saga, two huge things took place that I felt should have been the final result for the story. Goku died, and Gohan had finally surpassed Goku. We knew since the beginning of the story, since the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, that Gohan was stronger than Goku. We knew that Gohan had a hidden power within him, and it was just a matter of time. We knew that. We got bits and pieces throughout the entire story. Well, in the Cell Saga, another thing. Goku finally took the role of master. Think about it. Throughout Dragon Ball, Goku was training under all these masters. Master Roshi, Korin, Kami. In Dragon Ball Z, Goku trains under King Kai, who is God. Well, Kami was God, because Kami means God in Japanese, but Goku trains under these two godlike figures, which is Kami and King Kai. What happens after that? Goku trains on his own and reaches the pinnacle of sand, power. And what happens after that? He trains his son. Goku instead of training under someone and instead of training himself, he trains his son. We finally see Goku pass down. You see what I'm saying? The passing of the torch, the inheritance that Gohan will now receive. And what happens? Goku died. Goku gives his life to save the Earth, and to get rid of Cell all in one bang. Cell comes back. What happens? Now the Z Fighters have no choice but to face this threat without Goku's help. And Gohan feels in the shoes. The scene when Gohan unleashes the Kamehameha wave and you see the image of Goku behind him, that shit brought tears to my eyes first time I saw it. The father-son Kamehameha, that should have been the last battle for DBZ. Okay? And it's pretty clear, you can pretty much tell that with the Majin Buu saga, that was Akira Toriyama dragging the story out, dragging the story out further than it had to be. Now, a lot of people say that no, it should have ended with Frieza. I don't agree with that. And and like I said, all of the reasons I mentioned just now about the Cell saga is why I don't agree it should have ended with Frieza, because all of that was still left in the open at the end of Frieza. The whole issue with Vegeta being brought back and being on Earth, the thing with the Namekians. We didn't know what happened to Goku. We didn't know what would happen to Gohan. All that type of shit. That was still out in the open at the end of the Frieza saga. That's why I said no. Cell wrapped everything up well. The Cell saga, the resolution, should have been the end of the series. It's obvious that with the Buu saga, he was just, milking it. But yeah, Buu saga had a lot of things I didn't like. Goten, I like Goten, but I thought he was unnecessary to the story. I don't see what benefit introducing Goten to the story. I don't see what the benefit of it was. Why? Gotenks? Well, without the Buu saga, we would have never had fusion in the first place. You introduced Goten. You introduced Kid Trunks, who compared to his future counterpart is a fucking prick and a douchebag. Okay? Do not like Kid Trunks at all. And, okay, yes, in one saga, you introduced both of them. You introduced Gotenks, who I didn't like because Gotenks was too fucking cocky for his own good. And he talked too much shit. And his mouth ran all the fucking time. Yeah, the whole fusion thing. I mean, I didn't care for it too much. I really didn't care for fusion too much. We got the Supreme Kai, who he was a little dweeb. To say that that's the Supreme Kai, that's the God of gods, he was lackluster at best. He just to see how powerful Goku and Gohan and the rest of them, became, and to say that that's their god, Hercule, just no. Videl, she was okay, but when they first introduced her, she was obnoxious as shit. The whole Gohan in high school thing, Great Saiyaman, no. That shit was lame. All of that shit was lame. Booing himself was lame. Yeah, the best thing out of that whole fucking saga, honestly, was Majin Vegeta. We saw Vegeta revert to the dark side again. That was the best thing about that fucking saga, I have to say. Because even Super Saiyan 3. When Super Saiyan 3 happened, it was, I mean, I thought it was cool at the time, but looking back on it now, it's like, that's just overkill, you know? That's when shit got out of hand. That's when it got just too fucking OP'd. That's when, with the Buu saga, the reason why I don't like it, a lot of the same reasons why I don't like Naruto anymore. Because of, it's obvious, you're just milking the story, Naruto and Bleach. You're just milking the story, you're just coming up with this bullshit just to keep the story going along. It's not contributing to the overall plot. It's fucking up the foundation you already set up. You see what I'm saying? It's like building a brick. Ooh, the best fucking analogy I can think of for this shit. I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is. It's like building a brick house and deciding to throw vinyl siding on top of it. For what? You don't fucking need it. You've already built a solid fucking structure. Red brick. Brand new. Solid. Can resist hurricanes. Why are you gonna put vinyl siding over it? It's just like it's the same thing if you were to do if you had like some grade A fucking, walls made, right? Like some nice hardwood, like walls, right? Solid, good, right? And you decide to put shitty ass sheetrock on top of it. For what? Why? You see what I'm saying? That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's what I felt like the Majin Buu saga was. Now, to wrap up this video, because I know it is a long ass video. But why exactly is Dragon Ball Z? Why is this my favorite? Why do I consider it the greatest of all time? Because of this, okay? Dragon Ball Z was pretty much one of my earliest introductions into anime. Without it, I would have not gotten into anime. Because without Dragon Ball Z, now keep in mind, it isn't my first anime. I've seen anime when I was very little. Ronin Warriors, Sailor Moon, Pokemon, Monster Rancher, and I want to say Vampire Hunter D. All of which I saw before I was 9 years old. And I'm pretty sure there's some more some really old ones that I'm forgetting. So it wasn't my first introduction into anime, but that was when I really started getting into it. Like, when I saw DBZ, dude, that just changed my fucking life, okay? It changed my life. I just got fascinated. I just got hooked into anime after that. And I'm not just talking about anime. I'm talking about the Japanese culture in general. Because what happened was, I got introduced to Dragon Ball Z. That introduced me into other series. At the time, I think it was DBZ, Gundam Wing, Pokemon, Cardcaptor, Sakura, Outlaw Star Tenchi. I think those were like the 5 or 6 series that I really started getting into. Because I didn't get into Yu Yu Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin, Inuyasha Shaman King until middle school. And like I said, the titles I mentioned earlier, that was all still in grade school. Like DBZ, Gundam Wing, G Gundam, Outlaw Star, Tenchi, Cardcaptor Sakura, Pokemon, Digimon, Monster Rancher. All of those were when I was still in grade school. And then, Ronin Warriors, Sailor Moon, all of that was still when I was in grade school. By the time I was in middle school, that's when I got into Yu Yu Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin, Inuyasha, Cowboy Bebop, Wolf's Rain, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Beyblade. That's when I really started to get into anime. But another thing was this, okay? Because another thing is this. Without DBZ, I would have never pursued manga professionally. I would have never pursued it. I don't think I would have. And yes, it wasn't, I didn't just, it wasn't so much, oh my God, like, I just got to make manga. It didn't happen that abruptly, but what happened was after watching DBZ for a couple of years, this was my mentality, and this is my mentality for the most part. Whenever I see things that inspire me, I'll see a movie, or I'll hear an album, or I'll read a book, or I'll watch an anime, or I'll read a manga, and it's like I want to do that. That's the thought process in my head. When I saw DBZ, what came to mind was I want to do that. I want to make a story with these superpowered characters who fight these villains and they save the world. That's what I wanted to do. And originally, it was anime. Like, I wanted, I kept saying I wanted to make anime. And then when I got into middle school, I found out that the vast majority of anime comes from manga. And then that's when I got into the manga, because it wasn't, what happened was animation was not my main focus. It was creating the original stories and creating the original characters. That was my main focus. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to just, animate someone else's work. I wanted to be the one making the stories, making the characters, the conflicts, the romance, the resolutions, all that type of shit. I wanted to be the creator. So that's when I got into manga. And like I said, that all tears off of DBZ. Without DBZ, I would have never fucking gotten into that. Now, why do I think it's the greatest? Simple and plain. Because no one, let's face it. Okay, I'm tripping. Let's face it. DBZ is the give me a minute, because I need to word this correctly. But DBZ is the quintessential shonen archetype. Every shonen series that you see that came out after DBZ, in some way, shape, or form, was influenced by it. The quote-unquote big three have all stated multiple times, on multiple occasions, Akira Toriyama was a major influence for One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto. They have all said that. The reason why I say DBZ is the greatest of all time is because it was the first to do what it did at the level in which it achieved. Let me say that again. Dragon Ball Z was the first to do what it did to introduce a shonen anime and manga of that kind and of that caliber, and to make it a worldwide phenomenon. No anime and manga before Dragon Ball Z did that at that level of success. Not one. Now don't get me wrong. There were a lot of predecessors to DBZ that did do fairly well. You're talking about the greats. You're talking about, Astro Boy. You're talking about, Fist of the North Star. You're talking about Sailor Moon. These are all great anime and manga, but none of which had reached the level of success that Dragon Ball Z had. Dragon Ball Z broke. Let me put it to you like this. If Astro Boy is Wilt Chamberlain and Fist of the North Star is Dr. J, Dragon Ball Z was Michael Jordan. And Dragon Ball Z opened up the door for One Piece. The LeBron James. Naruto, the Carmelo Anthony. Bleach, Bleach would probably be Stephon Marbury. Because who knows what the fuck's going on with that dude. But you see what I'm saying? DBZ was the predecessor to most of today's shonen anime and manga. And for that, hey man, respect, recognition. It has to be given because it has been earned. So that's why I like it, and that's why it's my favorite, and that's why I think it's the greatest of all time, man. It's just like Toonami. Toonami would say it all the time. They said the greatest action cartoon ever made, and I have yet to see one that that suggests otherwise. There are great action cartoons and action anime, but I have yet to see one that topples Dragon Ball Z. The only anime that I could think that you could possibly say could top DBZ is Yu Yu Hakusho. And the reason why is because Yu Yu Hakusho has a stronger story than DBZ. DBZ, while I think it was a good story, DBZ does, like I said, it follows a format. And there are times in which the story does get a little stale. Yu Yu Hakusho does not have that problem because Yu Yu Hakusho has a lot of twists in it. It has little twists in it that keep the story interesting and keep it going and whatnot. But what I do say is Yu Yu Hakusho, I think Yu Yu Hakusho does have a better story than DBZ, but I think DBZ has better fights. Yu Yu Hakusho has some great fights, but I think DBZ has better fights. The action in the anime and in the manga I find it better to be than Yu Yu Hakusho. So, woo! Damn near 50 minutes, man. But hey, man, it's my favorite one. It's my favorite one. And this video has actually been a long time coming. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna leave this video off. Thanks for joining me again this week. And not to keep you guys in the dark, I'll go ahead and let you know. Next month's anime favorite is going to be Yu Yu Hakusho. It is. It is. I know I did a Yu Yu Hakusho vid before as a response to my man, the Game Addict, aka the Insane Game Freak, because he was doing his first impressions of Yu Yu Hakusho as he watched it, and I did a video when I mentioned it, but I've never done a full review / recap / video dedicated to Yu Yu Hakusho, and that's what next month's anime favorite is going to be. That's going to be the anime favorite for August. So with that said, what else can you expect later this month? Now I will go ahead and drop, since this is a monthly video, I'll go ahead and let you guys know about the other monthlies. Next week is going to be the Manga of the Month segment. It's coming back, and I'm going to go ahead and let that one be a surprise. I'm gonna let that one be a surprise, as well as my Anime of the Month. Same thing. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna let that be a surprise to what I decide to review. And both of those are first impressions. But other than that, what else to expect this week? My Naruto rant is going down. That's all I'm gonna say. It's going down. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and leave this video off. Thank you for joining me again this week. This is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. I'm signing off, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.